Hello again and welcome to another Warhammer 40k Imperial Guard video, and today guys we are going to be doing a deep dive on the new Imperial Guard Commissar model that's being released by Games Workshop. Now, in case you missed it, GW last week revealed loads of new cool models for the Imperial Guard, and I'm going to have a link down in the description of this video to the Warhammer community article where you can see all of the new releases and you can go and take a look at that at your leisure. But for today, we're going to be continuing our deep dive series and be taking a look at the new Commissar model, and this guy looks really, really cool. Now, if you've not seen one of these deep dive videos before, what I tend to do is go through the new model in minute detail and compare it to the existing Commissar models, and if I know any rules about it that might be coming out, any leaks or rumors, I'll drop those in throughout the video as well. But without further ado, let's dive straight into today's deep dive video and have a look at this scary discipline boy. So the first thing that I want to say is I really like this new Commissar model. I was not a fan of the original Ordo Perfectus model that you got back in the Start Collecting set for Imperial Guard. I just didn't think it worked. I thought the sword was a little curvy. I thought the guy was overly flamboyant and a little comical. And I just thought that he just looked unrealistic. So I really like the approach they've taken with this new Commissar. He looks a lot more threatening. He looks a lot more imposing. He looks like the guy that if you turned round and saw him behind you, you'd be like, yeah, I probably should stay in line here. He's not necessarily an inspiring Commissar like Ibram Gaunt from the Gaunt's Ghost series. He's very much more one of your classic, psychotic, emotionless Commissars. And I think that's really, really cool. So overall, I think this model is a vast improvement over the current Commissar model that you can get. But I do have a couple of small gripes with it, as we'll find out when we go through the model in detail in just a moment. So let's start at the top of the model and work our way down. So the first thing to take a look at is this hat. Now, this hat is pretty cool, I'm not going to lie. It's definitely in line with the rest of the Guard models that we've seen, where they started to dial down the flamboyance. They've started to make the hats look a little bit more realistically proportioned. But, you know, and overall, I can respect that. I can understand it. It certainly makes the models look a little bit more realistic. And one of the big draws for the Imperial Guard is in a game where you can play everything from literal demons to aliens with technology that is almost magical. You have all those options, and you as a player have chosen to essentially collect, you know, realistic human guard soldiers in space, right? And so I feel like GW is really embracing that aspect of it, and they're trying to make Guard look a bit more realistic. So I can understand that, but at the same time, and I like that on the one, you know, sort of on one hand, but on the other hand, I also find it a little bit of a shame that we're not getting the giant flamboyant hats that we used to find on the old Commissar models. I mean, it used to be back in the day, you know, there was a time when you could tell how senior a Guard officer, how senior a Guard Commissar was, purely based on the size of his magnificent hat. And, you know, dialing that down a little bit, whilst realistic, is a little bit of a shame. I mean, I know it's a bit cheesy pie having people running around with hats the size of planets on their heads, but it was nice to have that option. And I still really enjoy running my Commissars with those big funky hats. What I would love to see here, and I doubt it'll be the case, I suspect this is going to be a mono-post model. If we're lucky, we'll get a different, you know, plasma pistol instead of a bolt pistol option here, and maybe a power sword option. But I suspect, you know, it might be this is the loadout for your Commissar. It might be a little mono-post model. I would love to see, though, if there was an option where you could put a big flamboyant hat on this guy's head. That would be great. Maybe, you know, a couple of different head options would be good for this model. We don't know, that might be the case. Maybe we'll be able to get different kinds of heads for them. You know, guys not just looking intimidating, but ones that are maybe shouting and inspiring. Who knows? But for me, I think whilst I understand the approach they're taking with the model, it would be nice to still be able to get those big, floppy, flamboyant hats. So moving on to the face of the model, I actually quite like this. I know some people don't, but I think he does genuinely look quite intimidating. I like that emotionless aspect to it. How if you just turned around and saw this guy staring at you with his cold, dead eyes, you would definitely be like, you know what, I better stick around the front lines because I don't want to face what that guy's got in store for me. He really reminds me of what Colonel Schaffer from The Last Chances looks like. That's the vibe I'm getting from him. Colonel Schaffer like never showed any emotion. He was essentially a Colonel Commissar of a penal regiment. And to me, this feels like a new Colonel Schaffer model. Schaffer was always described as having a bolt pistol, having a power sword. He was always described as being like immaculately dressed no matter the situation. Always described as being emotionless under pressure. His men thought he was a demon in human skin. So if we move on to the top half of the model, we can see that there's some very different armor designs going on for this Commissar. Interestingly, traditionally, we've not actually seen a lot of armor on Commissars. Occasionally you see one with quite an impressive, maybe like breastplate. There was the old Lord Commissar model that was in Finecast that had that. But normally you just see Lord Commissars wearing maybe, you know, sort of a bit of braid, a nice fancy sort of dress uniform, something that very much reminds you of the Napoleonic era. It's strange to see that we've got a Commissar here who seems quite well heavily armored in the top half. And if you have a look at this, this isn't like Cadian battle plate or anything like that. This almost looks like knightly armor. You've got a big sort of breastplate here covering the top part of his chest. And then if you look at this armor here, it almost looks like armored metal lapels with armored little, you know, sort of shoulder pads as well, but they look very metallic. They don't look like the body armor or Kevlar or whatever you want to call it that we see on the regular guardsmen. This feels almost old school, almost outdated tech in a kind of crazy sort of way, which is an interesting take with the Commissar. I think they've done it to make him look absolutely regiment agnostic. This guy could fit into any regiment and he's going to look the part. Hopefully this will mean that the basic Commissar will also be getting a 4+ armor save, which would be really, really good. And overall, I really do like this armor design. I think it's a good choice by Games Workshop to help make it fit into any regiment. Moving on, we've got an equipment belt, which is kind of standard. Interesting how the equipment belt has a sort of fairly basic belt buckle, doesn't have a big aquila or a skull or anything like that. And then moving on, we've got the rest of the uniform, which is the coat here. And I do quite like the black Commissar coat they've gone with. One thing I have noticed is missing from the model though is the iconic red sash that most Commissars come with. Very strange they haven't gone for that red sash. It is an iconic piece of equipment for the Commissars. Overall, I think that's a little bit of an oversight, and I expect a lot of players are going to try and green stuff their own sashes on or come up with some way of adding them. But yeah, for me, that's a big miss. I do like this model, but the lack of Commissar sash does make it a little bit of a, I don't know, fly in the ointment. Maybe GW did that because you could say this guy could be a regular officer if he doesn't have a sash, but it's a bit weird how they gave the Castellan a sash, but they didn't give the Commissar a sash. Yeah, I mean, it's a vast improvement overall from the old Commissar model, but it does have a couple of bits that are missing, like fancy hat and sash. Now, taking a look at his weapons, you can see we've got the classic bolt pistol power sword loadout for this Commissar. I'm hoping that we'll be able to get a plasma pistol as well, and I would also like there to be some way of getting a power fist on this Commissar as well. Not sure quite how that would work, but I would like to see a power fist because there are many old school Commissar models that have them, and if they don't give them to this model, and then that means they might not give you the option of them in the codex, that would be a real shame. So I'm hoping that we'll see some more loadouts. I do like the classic bolt pistol power sword combination. I do like the style of bolt pistol. I like the big style of big power saber cleaver they've got going on here, but I would definitely like to think there are more options for your Commissars outside of this one fixed loadout. And then just a couple of other small bits. You can see he's got the standard officer boots that we've seen on many of the officer models that have been revealed so far. And of course, he is standing on the tactical rock. So that is everything for today. Let me know what you guys think down in the comment section below. According to the leaks and rumors that I've seen, you will be able to issue orders from your Commissar, but they're going to be special kinds of Ordo Perfectus orders. So that's kind of cool. If you've not seen my leaks video where I go through those orders, I'll put a link to it at the end of this video. Hope you guys all enjoyed today's video. If you did, please consider giving it a like. If you want to see more of these deep dive episodes, make sure you subscribe to never miss an episode. If you've really enjoyed today's episode, then please consider becoming a channel member or Patreon supporter. One of the big perks you get from being one of those is you get access to the Mordian Glory Discord, where we have got constant communications and chats and all sorts of good stuff going on about the new releases, about rumors, about leaks. There's all sorts of great stuff going on there, and we've got about 400 active members at the moment, which is absolutely fantastic. They would cover everything from memes to lore to tactics, and there's even like painting competitions and events that get run in there as well. So it's really, really cool. So if that sounds like something you want to get involved in, consider becoming a channel member or Patreon. So we've had a lot of new channel members join recently, and I want to do a big shout out for everyone who has signed up. So massive thank you to Soul Hall, Nerdly Delicious, Daniel M, Johan C, Mark Skendor, Master GT Jackom, Santo Prime, Jake Hughes, Dumfries Gamer TV, Yeri, Joe Hills, Oliver Windle, The Red Scout, Phantom, Vincent Colson, James Stables, James Harden, Jason Dossett, Phantom's Hobby, Michael Enright, S73WY, DeSalman, Nino P, Andrew Layson, Felix Macbeth, Jason May, Herbert Hoover, Big Man 3733, Edward Sullivan, Bob McGrayson, Migraine, Marcus Roberts, Abyss Watcher, Blake M, William Pagonis, Liam Cox, Jonathan C, Flying Ace, Michael 2, Stuart Hawkins, Simon Keefe, Caleb Robertson, Ryan Nash, Innes Ritter, JC McShirtolf, Rogaldorn, Rookie, Jazz Hands, Freeform Rue, Rusty Shackleford, Air Castle, Gareth Evans, Calvineer, Fredvith, Unani Mendebil, Luke DeBoss, Oceani Games, John Thiessen, Crash Quest 88, Stu, Rayan Skull, Sailor Pete, DSX01, Matthias, Daniel Kelly, David Patrick, definitely not Trotsky, OO Mitt, Aaron, Felix JC, Delta Loco, Raziel, Craig Kenny, Mint W, Gene H, Black Jack, Lass Shack, Mr. Lackey, Livian, Games in Theory, Alex Silver, Ross S, Dave Owen, Ugg88, MacDuck McGee, Bodger, Justin S, Gold 5, Hoop Dog, Smolaki, Carrie Colbinson, Ivan Terashinki, Pacman, and Bloodtree. Thank you guys for joining the channel. Thank you guys for doing your part. We've also had lots of new Patreon people sign up as well, which is brilliant. So a big thank you to Thomas, Texit Red, Dasalman, LARP Analysis, Madcap Miguel, Fox T, Josh, Glenthorpe, Isaac H. Chapman, Christian Chadwell, Evie Wilkinson, Tech Guy 122, and Hound the Red. Thank you guys for your ongoing Patreon support. And last but certainly not least, I want to say a big thank you to Navy veteran Philip French, Ross Miller, Tekwal, Alex Dengal, John Stubbs, Nicholas Walsh, Swordfish Trombone, Diesel Fox, Tom Sutton, and August Varney for being top tier Patreon supporters. These guys are the War Masters, and they truly have gone above and beyond the call of duty. So big 07 down in the comment section with them. They are true Imperial heroes. Thank you to everyone who's watched this video. I hope you enjoyed it. And of course, as always, I'll see you guys next time.